Okay, what we got? We got video game piracy is good, actually.
Disclaimer, everything said in this video is for the purposes of entertainment and satire. I am not a lawyer. None of the opinions expressed are meant to be taken as serious legal advice or argument. Any reference to illegal actions are entirely hypothetical.
True.
Piracy is amazing, and you should do it in real life as much as possible. This is not a joke. Go out and pirate something right now.
Yeah. Bro, what is this? Is this like the Bad Boys? You wouldn't make a video about piracy. Oh. Defending piracy is cool.
Alright, I've probably lost some of you already with the title of this video and that opening bit. Piracy, especially as it relates to video games.
Okay. Oh man, I was gonna say something, but I forgot. God dang it.
Has become a very complicated topic. Perhaps even the most complicated topic, since it simultaneously deals with legality, morality, and ethics, which—
Oh yeah. Nobody cares if you pirate, like, shitty games. People only give a shit about piracy when you pirate, like, big-ass titles or, like, good games.
I don't know if you knew, people tend to have pretty extreme opinions about. A lot of big companies and people online villainize piracy and make it out to be much worse than I think it actually is, sometimes straight up lying about it to try and condemn the people who do it. So I thought it would be fun to go through a bit of a defense of piracy and try to debunk a lot of these myths. My patrons also voted for me to make this video, so if I go to jail for this, I'm blaming you. To give a quick definition, piracy is any act of robbery or criminal violence by a ship or its crew upon another ship or— Wait, no, that's not it. Piracy is broadly defined as the unauthorized copying or distribution of copyrighted works.
Unauthorized copying or distribution of works. Okay.
A lot of people are quick to say it's theft, including Joe Biden back in 2011. And that's definitely how anti-piracy groups would like you to see it. In fact, they started an ad campaign in the 80s that—
This disc costs $15. This disc could cost $2,000. Okay. What the fuck is this? Bro, this is like some black and white comics. Jeez. Warning. This sort of bill if you pay for them. Okay. Pirated game could, in a visit from you, know who, what? Warning. No one on the right is handling stolen goods. Oh, he's like giving it. If you're involved in software piracy, then you're breaking the law.
Invented the term piracy is theft in an attempt to villainize copying software. But
well, if piracy was theft, then why not just use theft? But it's not. So piracy is different than theft.
But I just want to start by clearing this up. Piracy is just copyright infringement. They are synonymous. When you do a piracy, the only law being broken—
I just want to say, when you do a piracy, that was funny.
is copyright. There is no theft or stealing involved. Let me explain. If I rob a GameStop, they actively lose out on all the copies of Forspoken that I might take from them. Those copies might not be worth a lot because I don't think anyone bought that game, but GameStop doesn't have them anymore, which is what makes it theft.
Right.
But even if I make—
Okay, so you're stealing physical goods from like a store. Okay.
Make 1 trillion copies of Big Mother Truckers 2 Truck Me Harder, real game by the way, and give them to all my friends, the developers didn't lose a thing.
Oh, what the fuck is this game? Big Mother Truckers, Truck Me Harder. Oh my god.
They still have all their original copies, nothing was taken, no theft occurred. And this is backed by the US government, ever since Dowling v. United States in 1985, where they agreed that interference with copyright, aka piracy, does not easily equate with theft, conversion, or fraud. The infringer of a copyright does not assume physical control over the copyright, nor wholly deprive its owner of its use. Also,
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
people love misusing the term piracy to just describe any time they think people owe them money. Adblock, for example, has nothing to do with copyright.
Oh boy.
Watching this video and blocking all the ads isn't even related to distribution or copying. And there's no law saying that you have to watch ads on videos. So when companies like
Oh shit, that is true. Dang, they're probably coming after that one next.
German media conglomerate
Quit giving them ideas, dude.
Axel Springer try suing ad blockers for piracy, they always lose in court. This should be obvious, but just because you want more money from people doesn't mean they're pirating from you. Not making someone more money isn't a crime. Otherwise, I could say that this video is sponsored by GamerSupps and then have you arrested if you don't buy something from them, because
Oh,
I could
shit.
have potentially made a sale from every person that watches this video.
True.
Anyway, this video is sponsored by GamerSupps, a zero-calorie energy drink formula that's tastier and cheaper.
Bro, what is this one? What the fuck? Anime girl thigh. This is a GamerSupp? GG Energy. And what the fuck is this one? Some big titty anime girl blowhole blast. That's some JJK shit.
Cheaper than canned energy drinks. If you don't go to gamersupps.gg/Lextorious right now and save 10% off on your next order, I will have you sent to prison where you belong, you piece of shit. So if piracy isn't stealing because you're not taking anything, then what actually is it and why is it illegal?
Oh,
well,
shit.
you see, the whole point of copyright is that you have exclusive rights to the things you make.
Okay.
If I write a story, I don't just own the pages I wrote on, but the words on the page too. And I have full legal control over who has access to those words. All piracy is someone getting around that access.
Oh. Okay. That makes sense when you just literally just simplify it like that. That makes way more sense.
Doing something that the law says only I'm allowed to do. So if you buy my story, take it home and write it down word for word, you're violating my copyright. If it's an ebook that you transfer onto a thumb drive, then give that to a friend, you're committing a crime. The law says you need my permission to do any of that, even if you do it, up to 70 years after I'm dead. To put it plainly, the
Yeah, but Lex, what about games that you can't get anymore by legal means? What about that?
World Intellectual Property Organization, the leading international pro-copyright group, says copyrights may more narrowly be viewed as limited and legally sanctioned monopolies. And if that's what the people advocating for it say, you can only imagine what the people who are against copyright might call it. Because yes, there are tons of different groups over the years that have fought for the abolition or reworking of copyright laws, such as various pirate parties around the world or the hilariously named copyleft movement. And I don't want to get too deep into any of that. I just want to highlight how contentious copyright laws are in general.
Bro, this is like all brand new, like copyleft, masspiracy.org. What the fuck? This is all like new shit to me.
They aren't the end-all be-all of dictating what's right and wrong. Though, to give a fun example of copyright in action, in 2006, the Dutch musician Melchior Rietveld granted use of his song for a short film in a film festival. They allowed that song to be used for free for this one-off performance. However, Rietveld later found out that the short film had been put on thousands of DVDs without his permission, which he didn't get paid for. Rietveld then sued the filmmakers for copyright infringement and won, getting all 100,000 euros that those DVDs would have been worth. Why am I using this example specifically? Well, because the short film in question was an anti-piracy ad. The internet was actually convinced that it was the "you wouldn't steal a car" ad that everybody loves, though while that ad has its own problems, it is completely different to the one that ironically committed piracy. But, what the heck, here's a clip.
Pirated. Oh, I remember this. That's what that was from. It wasn't from fucking, what do you call it? Like Bad Boys, or not Bad Boys, but like the show Cops. I fucking remember this commercial, dude. Piracy is theft. But when I saw this commercial, I 100% believed it because I was a little kid and didn't know any better. And isn't this on like some DVDs now? I mean, I don't really buy DVDs, so I wouldn't know actually. But it all makes sense now. Like, why would you have to say the thing is a thing if it isn't a thing? Like, why would you have to say piracy is theft So what's the logic? Piracy isn't theft.
God, it is so good. My favorite part is that it has to remind you that stealing is against the law. I don't know why they had to add that, but it's a banger. And according to some sources, it increased rates of piracy because of how cool it made it look.
Oh yeah, it probably did like the opposite, like you said. Oh my god, bro! Like I was telling my buddy, or not telling him, but I was just reminding him that anything that you see on a computer screen, or that you can see on a computer screen, is like you can easily just get it for yourself. OBS is a free thing that everybody can get, and all it does is just record what happens on your screen. So you can, if you want to go rent a movie for like super cheap, and you want to keep it forever, you buy or you rent whatever the thing in like the 1080 or 4K version. You keep it for 2 days. You record it with like OBS or whatever, and then voila, you just have it forever now. Same thing with like music albums. If you like a music album, like yeah, you can like support it if you want. Or you could just look at that album. I mean, I don't know. Like I haven't really kept up with music, so maybe I'm like I don't know, maybe I'm like this is like a bad thought process, but like if some band releases like a new hit single, like you could just easily watch it on like YouTube or whatever. But then again, if you're concerned about ads, then and you don't want to get YouTube Premium, you don't want to get annoyed by all the fucking ads and shit. So you could just theoretically just play the song, record it with OBS, put it on like some like editing program, cut out the ad part, like cut it and then like push it together. So then boom, you got the song forever. I mean, but like it doesn't really make sense because most songs, most like music is, I think, like almost like eternalized on like YouTube, which is like I don't know, maybe that's stupid. But like every song I could ever want to listen to is just on YouTube.
There's a great report about the ineffectiveness of anti-piracy ads in general that I read that made the amazing point that pirates would often cut these ads out of films, so the only people who would watch them were paying customers, which effectively made them advertisements for piracy.
Yeah.
Piracy. Look, super mega rock and roll gods and superstars are just regular dudes like you guys.
What a joke. Jack Black is literally just going into his like character mode to do this, and you can just tell he's like, oh god, I gotta do this, god damn it. I'm contractually obligated. Fuck no.
Punch the clock, we put on the pants, and then we blow people's minds. That's how we make a living. And then these pirates come and they steal all our internets. I don't know how they do it, but these pirates can bust into our entertainers' homes, make us walk the plank, steal our rockin' tunes, and leave us broke. Is that what you want, Mr. Long John Silver? What's your parrot gonna listen to when you go toe-to-toe against the English Armada? Jazz? I don't think so.
Now, piracy is illegal in the US, and due to things like the Bernay Convention, also illegal in many places allied with the US. Though, just like with anti-piracy ads, the law never really stopped anybody. Also, piracy laws either don't exist or straight up aren't enforced in a ton of places, especially China and Russia. So a lot of companies took the task of stopping pirates into their own hands. I mean, if you can't arrest someone for obtaining copies, why not try to make it impossible to copy something to begin with?
Yeah.
Before the switch from analog...
No, that would take too much effort on their part initially. And whether or not it would be worth it would be dependent on how, I don't know, what's the word? Like, how ready and willing and adventurous they're willing to like get with their like anti-piracy technology.
Analog to digital, the way companies would stop you from duplicating your favorite VHS copy of Turner and Hooch was just making it so the output was scrambled if you tried to turn the VCR to record mode. But
oh, really? Was that a thing? That's crazy. I never even thought about doing that shit with like VHSs and well, I did it with like music shit. Like I can't sit and watch the video and say, "Oh, I'm a saint. I've never pirated anything." Of course I fucking have. Everybody remembers LimeWire and BearShare and like, oh shit, I hope this is like the real song and I hope it's not porn. Like when you go to like download that shit, dude. I've downloaded a ton of shit.
With computers came programming, and with programming came more advanced kinds of copy.
What was it? Oh, and Kazaa. It was like BearShare, LimeWire, Kazaa, and there are probably a couple other ones, but those are like the main ones that I used.
Prevention, all of which are dubbed digital rights management software, or DRM. And I should clarify, to call any of this copy prevention is a bit of a stretch. It's more like copy delaying, or copy mild inconvenience in most cases. Because after all, one of the main reasons people get into programming in the first place is to problem solve fun challenges with computers. And so, as it turns out, giving a bunch of computer nerds a fat, juicy challenge to solve that would also let them play games for free if they beat it meant they would dedicate their lives to solving these problems.
True.
Getting around DRM became a very competitive game for pirates, even in the early days of computers. Back in the era of the Apple II and the Commodore 64, they formed circles called wares groups that would trade games and try to crack the software. Each of them rushing to be the first one to bypass a new game or program to get all the fame that came with it.
That's
almost
so funny.
Always signing their name on fancy splash screens they made to
Blaze presents another crack. That's actually kind of funny. Oh, what is this one? 12 and Magic cracked by No Frills Inc. Wait, what is this? Kime and Magic? Okay. Was it Hotline? Where cracking is an art? Proudly presents Time and Magic. Maybe it's a T. Imported by this date. Oh Jesus, 1989. Press space to score something. I don't know. Presents Exploding Fist. Was it Bloodsuckers?
to proudly display their achievement. These crackers, hold on. Can I say that word? These white people kept up this tradition to this very day, with the NFO files packed alongside pirated copies of games, which are usually the only ways that wares groups will communicate with the
depresses all de nouveau scum, expresses all hate and insults, impresses all pirates across the sea. What the fuck?
Outside world. And while the groups individually would rise and fall and fade into obscurity, the scene itself is surprisingly still going strong. Strong enough that in 1998, the US would create the DMCA Act, which is most famously known for protecting websites like YouTube from copyright lawsuits, so long as they provide a way for the website to take down copyrighted material. But they also made it specifically illegal to try and circumvent copy prevention systems. This had the intended effect of allowing anti-piracy groups to go after the wares scene and various crackers much harder than before, but had the unintended effect of making it illegal for people to fix everything from John Deere tractors to their own pacemakers, because in doing so, you had to mess with the copy prevention software.
Oh shit. They didn't think about that one.
Boy, United States law sure is great, huh?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic, dude.
I think that internet swapping and trading of different things is pretty cool, man. Kids want to listen to music, you know? I don't think bands should be so concerned with making every penny that should be squeezed out of everything. It's like, I want kids in Thailand to rock out when we show up to Thailand, you know? I don't care if they bought the record or not. If they download it off their computer, right on. If they taped it off to their friend, right on. It means they like music.
Piracy is...
Damn. What a based ass take from Foo Fighters. That's pretty cool. I mean, because essentially, that's, what is it called? Like brand recognition? You're just spreading brand recognition by letting people pirate your shit. I mean, you as like a band, like you're going to get paid like some amount because not everybody knows how to pirate shit. The amount of people that know how to like pirate shit and like even more so like make money from it is so small. I don't think it's like significant enough to like put an actual dent into like any of these people's like paychecks. I mean, and that's probably true of like bigger names in whatever art, like music, movies, video games. Like the people that are making the big bucks can't really tell of like how much like lost, like what is it called, like damage losses, like lost damages or something, like lost potential income or some shit like that. They probably can't tell, but I will say it is just, it probably sucks for like people in like the middle of it, or people like just trying to start out and make something. It probably sucks a bunch for those type of people, like an indie game dev, or like a solo music person or some shit like that. They're just trying to get their foot in the door. Um, yeah, that probably sucks.
The whole then got a ton of notoriety around 1999 when a little website called Napster came out and dropped a
Napster, that was the other one, the big one.
fucking nuke on the music industry that it would never quite get over. So anti-piracy groups in the years following, as well as the companies making DRM, massively stepped up their game.
Bro, wasn't there like a device that was like the Napster pod or some shit? As long as you had this device and you just had Napster on your computer, you just put the songs on the device and it's like, hey, I got the song.
One of the first big attempts at impossible to crack DRM was Star Force, which managed to keep Splinter Cell Chaos Theory unpirated for a world record 422 days.
Oh shit.
But Star Force also, unfortunately, required full control over your entire PC, couldn't be uninstalled, and ran so poorly that tech websites claimed it would brick your CD drive, which caused Ubisoft to be on the receiving end of a $5 million class action lawsuit for using it, and later caused them to drop it entirely.
Get fucked, Ubisoft. But I will say, goddamn, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory actually fucking goated. So, I mean, I had no problem paying money for like a good ass game.
The software to replace Star Force was then SecureROM, which would physically measure where data was on your disk and then authenticate that data by making you activate your copy on an online server. And this was used on everything from Mass Effect to BioShock to GTA 4, with some pretty okay results.
Was that
However, in order to work, it also, for some reason, required access to everything on your computer, also couldn't be uninstalled, would shut the game off if you ran any other programs, and would sometimes make you reactivate your copy as often as every 10 days, which landed EA with multiple lawsuits this time after they included it in the release of Spore.
Oh my god, this is all news to me, dude. I didn't know the trials and tribulations of early day PC gaming. I mean, and I don't think this was like pre-Steam. I'm pretty sure Steam was around, but I don't think any of the deals have been made to where like, you know, all the EA games can be on like the Steam store and whatnot. This is probably before then, where PC games like still required you to have like a disc or something like that. This is news. This is hilarious too.
And the cherry on top of all this, Spore went on to become the most pirated game of all time in 2008. And there's a good chance it only got there because of how many people hated the DRM. Now, when I tell you that the next and most famous...
Bro, that's so crazy that how people like just rally behind like a group, a purpose like that. It's insane.
DRM software to come out, Denuvo, was made by the same people who made SecureROM. You should start to see a pattern here.
Oh,
Denuvo is the most sophisticated...
Bro, you know what this sounds like? This sounds like cheats and anti-cheats doing like the cat and mouse game, like always in a circle. The what is it called? The little DRM thing comes out, people try to crack it and break it. The new DRM thing comes out, people try to crack that one and eventually break that one. Then the same people come out with like the secure ROM. That one comes out, ooh, it's new hotness, and then they just crack that shit again. Denuvo comes out, whatever, and people just gonna crack that shit again.
Copy prevention we've
That's
seen
what
so
this
far.
sounds like to me.
And by most sophisticated, I mean it took Wares Groups a whole month to crack games like Dragon Age Inquisition instead of the typical day. It then took 8 months to crack Rise of the Tomb Raider after Denuvo rewrote...
Bro, Dragon Age Inquisition. God dang, that's so funny to me because, bro, like this was like years ago. when I had my Xbox 360, and when I was like, I don't know when it came out, but no, I'm not gonna say it. Fuck that.
With their whole program from the ground up. And then Hitman 2 got cracked several days before launch. So, yeah. The way it works is obviously hush-hush, but the basic gist from what I've heard is that like SecureROM, it connects to servers to validate your game files. But instead of checking physical data on a disk, it makes a unique key for every computer it's installed on, then keeps the game's code encrypted and only decrypts it on the fly as long as that key remains valid. If that sounds insane to you,
yeah,
it should, because Denuvo has been proven to cause performance issues and slower load times in games that use it, since sometimes it just can't decrypt that data fast enough. Just to name a few examples, Devil May Cry 5 saw a 25% performance increase, and Resident Evil Village got rid of major stuttering issues after Capcom removed Denuvo from the games.
Oh wow, who'd have thunk? Bro, and this is like recent. This was like in 2020. These are all like new games trying to establish all these like anti-piracy things. Like, Jesus Christ.
And Tekken 7 director Katsuhiro Harada directly blamed Denuvo for the game having bad performance at launch. The worst part of all this, to me, is that just like how people who bought movies legally were the only ones who saw anti-piracy ads, people who buy games legally often get worse performance than they would from a pirated copy because of the DRM.
True, dude. And no, like, when a game comes out and it performs poorly, like with like not the intended like FPS or whatever, or like with the stuttering and all that bullshit, I will say this: when I was like a little kid, I was able to like, I had like more patience for like bad games. But then again, when I was a little kid, like not a lot of games came out that were just bad on day one. That's just more of a thing like in modern day video games and shit. I have less tolerance for bullshit that happens on day one whenever I buy a game, to the point where I don't even buy games on day one anymore. Fuck that shit. Like, I don't care about the FOMO anymore. It's whatever. Yeah, I'll wait like a month or two when it goes on sale, and then I'll enjoy it.
So it's become a widespread practice for companies to remove Denuvo from their games the second it gets cracked, which leads to this absurdly hilarious situation where a game will come out, have performance issues, and the community has to wait for pirates to crack it so the Denuvo can be removed to clear the issues up.
That's fucking insane, dude. Godspeed on the pirates. May you crack faster.
Now, to clarify, Denuvo still massively increases the average time it takes to crack a game, sometimes giving up the goods instantly, but sometimes giving about a month before something gets pirated, maybe even a year if the game isn't popular enough to attract the few crackers who know how to break it. And the crackers themselves have had some pretty big ups and downs the last several years or so, with many groups disbanding or getting raided by the police, and a ton of drama happening between members. This video doesn't really focus that much on them, but I'll link to a great Reddit thread that details a basic history of the scene and a lot of the drama that went on around one particular cracker, Empress. And I also suggest reading the Wikipedia article that just lists all the wares groups, because that's pretty fun too.
Oh, shit.
Ultimately, despite how terrible and ineffective it is for a lot of games, publishers keep putting in Denuvo and DRM in general because it can hopefully keep their game locked up long enough to survive the initial sales window. They are terrified of piracy and are often willing to hurt the consumer in order to just delay the inevitable. So let's talk a little bit about why they're so afraid.
Dang.
I hear terrible things about piracy. I've been hearing them for decades. People love to say that piracy is costing the industry so much money and it's horrible and undermining everything.
Like, what are the actual numbers? Like, I'd be willing to, like, listen if somebody would just release the numbers. Give me some, like, actual evidence instead of just saying, oh, piracy is so bad, it's so significant. Well, how significant?
I listen. I don't see a lot of evidence for that. But what happens is if you make a game that runs slower or takes longer to start up, or whatever, will become unplayable if someone loses a piece of paper, you're going to drive valid consumers away from your product.
Yeah.
Whether they buy it or not, or whether they pirate it or not, they're not going to buy it. Because once someone pirates and they have wiped those measures, if the game's better because of it, if it runs faster, has a better frame rate, doesn't pause occasionally, starts up really fast, why would you want to play the valid one?
Piracy's effect on
I think piracy is something that like older gamers do. Like I don't know like a lot of like kids that are just downloading pirated shit, dude. I don't know. Maybe that's like a stupid take, but it just seems like more complicated than it actually is. You just, I don't know, go to like the website with all the cracked games, click on the thing, download it, install it, and then voila, there's the game. I mean, if it's that simple, then oh boy. But I would say most people don't even know about like pirated games.
sales is incredibly difficult to track. The intuitive answer is that it certainly should have some, but how big of an effect and how much would change if piracy didn't exist is near impossible to find conclusive evidence on. Don't get me wrong, if you want to find studies on piracy, you can find hundreds, and I have. There are more research papers on the effects of
If I could imagine like the simplest way to figure it out, like just pick some game with like some DRM. Let's look at like Devil May Cry 5. Okay, how many sales of that game were there according to whatever the game studio had? Like it's gonna be like X amount, and then you go to like all the popular wares sites, and you look up Devil May Cry 5, and you look up maybe there's like an like amount downloaded or like it's this popular, like this version of the game or whatever, and it got downloaded like umpteen thousand times or whatever, and then that would be, and then you add them all up, and then just you compare like the units sold to the total amount of downloads across all ware sites, and then figure out how significant it is. That would be like the simplest thing.
piracy than I could count. But that's the problem, because they all contradict each other. Like, if I wanted to, I could show you a report from the European Commission in 2013 that showed that music piracy had zero effect on legal music sales, saying the vast majority of music that is consumed illegally by the individuals in our sample would not have been legally purchased if illegal downloading websites were not available to them. I could show you another report that said even though 51% of all adults in the EU had pirated something at some point in their life, this had no negative effect on sales in most industries.
Well, what's a negative effect on a sale? Like a loss of income? But like in a vacuum, a loss of income is like, oh, I spent, I don't know how much like an album is, like, I don't know, like a standard like 10, 15 song album. I have no idea what, like $30 or some shit like that. So like in a vacuum, in like an absolute sense, like if I download an album, that's a loss of a sale. So in that case, yeah. But from the perspective of like, if you're like a big artist, and you're making, and you sold like umpteen million copies of your album, you don't really care if like a couple thousand people pirated your shit, dude. Guarantee. I just don't, I refuse to think that these people are losing sleep because they're thinking, oh God, those 20,000 people pirated my shit and I should have like 60K more or whatever amount of money more. God dang it, I gotta wipe my tears with these tens and twenties of millions of dollars that I just made. Like, that reality doesn't exist for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a dumbass, like, and I don't know better.
And in the case of video games, actually led to a 24% increase in sales, likely from word of mouth and people buying games after they pirate them. A conclusion that several other reports I found also show for video games and other industries.
Oh, so that's the logic they use. Much the same way that you can like test drive a car before you buy it. They probably view the same thing, like with video games. Like, let me play it first, and then if the product is good, then I'll give you the money. Instead of this, like with most modern video games, it's pay money first and then receive the experience. It's like, I get how that transaction is very annoying when you're constantly, well, not constantly, but like sometimes like burned by like AAA companies in that the game sucks. There, like the game sucks on day one. There's too many bugs. There's day one patches, so on and so forth. So, I mean, I guess that's the logic, and I get it, but I can't really figure out if that's like a right or wrong thing to do, because it's just like, on one side, it's you pay your money first, then you receive the experience, whereas on the pirate side is we receive the experience first, and then we deem it to be good or bad, then we will pay. Those are like the opposite sides of the coin, essentially.
Industries. But I could also show you reports that conclude the exact opposite. Ones that say piracy negatively impacts music sales or movie sales or game sales. Some saying it doesn't have an effect on one, but a strong effect on another. If you gather enough reports on this, many of them will say completely different things, because they're all using different data and methodologies.
Oh,
so
yeah.
just like I picked out studies showing piracy to have a positive effect, you can easily group up studies with negative effects and then make a conclusion from that. You know,
Okay.
Piracy definitely hurts sales. Here are a dozen studies that say so. Just ignore the ones that disagree with me. Another thing to point
Yeah.
out is that the vast majority of these studies can only ever prove correlation. They'll show that piracy went up some percentage and sales in some industry went down some percentage, and then just say that as piracy goes up, sales go down, which is fine data to collect in a vacuum, but there's a reason that they all say research suggests that piracy may impact sales.
Yeah.
Because
Suggesting, the keywords being suggesting and may. It's not this is the fact.
I can show you a graph of beef jerky sales in the US and a graph of consensual incest in the US and say that beef jerky sales are correlated with incest. But I can't then say eating beef jerky makes you want to kiss your cousin, no matter how much we all know it to be true. Correlation doesn't mean causation. Correlation doesn't even really prove anything on its own. And even the very thorough 300-page piracy studies I showed you will cite other factors that may be responsible.
Oh,
Since
shit.
there's so many.
Wait, what does it say? That does not necessarily mean that piracy has no effect, but only that the statistical analysis does not prove with sufficient reliability that there is an effect. Yeah, it's like, what, in 2014, average 51% of adults and 72% of the minors in the EU have illegally downloaded or streamed any form of creative content, with higher piracy rates in Poland and Spain and any in the 4 countries of this study. In general, the results do not show robust statistical evidence of displacement of sales by online copyright infringements. An exception is the displacement of recent top films. The results show a displacement rate of something. Okay. I mean, he highlighted this, so this is probably like the key sentence right here. Yeah. I mean, when you say this, you don't really have a leg to stand on.
Variables, you can't make a conclusion for sure. So that's just something to keep in mind.
When the web started, I used to get really grumpy with people because they put my poems up, they put my stories up. And I also got very grumpy because I felt like they were pirating my stuff, that it was...
I think that's like an all right thing to think about as like a knee-jerk reaction. But if you think about it in terms of brand recognition, like with the Foo Fighters band in the beginning, then as long as like this is the poem by so-and-so and they give you the credit, maybe the people will start like looking up, oh, what else has this guy got? You know, oh, brand recognition, oh, free marketing, oh. Maybe that's like the more like healthy way to like approach this.
was bad. And then I started to notice that places where I was being pirated, I was selling more and more books. People were discovering me through being pirated. And I started to realize that actually you're not losing books. You're not losing sales.
You're gaining.
You can't look on that as a lost sale. It's not a lost sale. Nobody who would have bought your book is not buying it because they can find it for free. What you're actually doing is advertising. You're reaching more people. you're raising awareness.
There you go.
And understanding that gave me a whole new idea of the shape of copyright.
It's marketing.
And what the web was doing. Because the biggest thing the web is doing is allowing people to hear things, allowing people to read things, allowing people to see things they might never have otherwise seen. And I think basically that's an incredibly good thing.
But regardless of actual impact, the perceived impact of piracy on game sales is very, very negative. Companies are quick to bring up piracy as a contributor to bad sales performance, and there's a reason so many do a deal with the devil that is DRM. Crytek, the company behind Crysis and Far Cry, even cited piracy as the main reason they stopped selling games exclusively on PC. According to the CEO, they somehow tracked how many people registered the game online and estimated that for every copy bought, 15 to 20 had been installed, meaning
Really? Where do you come up with like numbers like that? Can you like at least reveal your process for coming to the conclusion of these numbers?
Assuming the numbers are accurate, if even 10% of the pirates had bought the game, they would have doubled their revenue.
Yeah.
However, even with that insane rate of piracy, the game made its production costs back, funded 3 more sequels, and became one of the highest selling PC games of all time. So it's pretty hard for me to agree that piracy hurt them that bad, but nonetheless, the sequel expansion Crysis Warhead launched with Secure ROM on it and was the last PC exclusive Crytek ever made. Here's where it gets interesting though. Half a decade later, in 2014, Crytek tried transitioning to the games as a service market, with the CEO claiming that every game they'd make from then on would...
With the whole, the live service type deal? As we were developing console games, we knew very clearly that the future is online and free to play. Right now, we're in the transitional phase of our company, transitioning from packaged good games into an entirely free to play experience. All right, nothing wrong with that. What this entails is that our future, all the new games that we are working on, as well, new projects, new platforms, technologies, are designed around free to play and online with the highest quality development. Okay. Yeah, a lot of your games you're just going to make like free to play. Okay.
Would be free to play and always online. But this was after some underwhelming sales from Crysis 3 and Rise Son of Rome, a game I'm sure everybody remembers.
I remember that. Wasn't this like that one game where it was like QTE intensive? Like you wanted to do like anything that was like cool. It was like a QTE, quick time event. You want to like jump on a Colossus head and like slit his throat open or some shit like that, or like do anything that was cool in a cutscene. It's like hit a button, hit another button, big skill, much hard.
Which put the company on the brink of bankruptcy. To tell you how bad it got, Crytek reduced the size of their company by 40%, shut down all but 2 of their studios, and sold off their rights to Homefront. The CEO also didn't pay employees for several months because they said it would have put the company under. A former Crytek employee that got in contact with me said the company was still tracking how many pirated copies of their games there were, and still looked at piracy as a reason they weren't doing well. So they made the last-ditch attempt to push into games as a service, which slowly clawed them back to profitability with games like Hunt Showdown. Now, we likely won't ever know the full behind-the-scenes story of Crytek, but I can guarantee this is a common belief in the industry. It's pretty easy to look at your sales numbers declining and blame people playing the game for free, even if it can't be proven that they'd have bought your game anyways. After all, no studio has shut down specifically because of piracy, and Crytek's numbers only really declined after they implemented DRM and started making console exclusives. But even so, the hard-working employees making these games were the ones hurt in the end. And piracy is a very...
I mean, if you're an employee to like Crytek, and the article just said they weren't paid for 6 months, then it's like, what are you fucking doing? Assuming everybody gets paid every 2 weeks, that's like 12 weeks of paychecks you're missing out on. Like, what the fuck?
Easy thing to blame for that. Also, an unrelated fun fact, in 2004, Crytek's offices were raided by German police for pirating software. Police didn't actually end up finding anything because it was a false alarm, so I just want to make that clear.
Oh.
But it is really funny.
Yeah.
Now, this poor treatment of employees, or well, the Crytek CEO says that people were happy.
Wait, let me see that again.
False alarm, so I just want to make.
Wait, let me go back. Far Cry developer raided. Crytek's offices raided on suspicion of illegal software. As reported in the German language PC Games Online magazine yesterday, the German officers of Far Cry developer Crytek were searched by Coburg and Bavarian police on Monday on suspicion of illegal software use. The residence of Crytek CEO was also searched. Yeah, that's not a good look, dude.
Police for pirating software. Police didn't actually end up finding anything because it was a false alarm, so I just want to make that clear.
Oh, that guys, we're losing. All these motherfuckers are downloading and installing our games, guys. Meanwhile, on the side of the screen, it's like, guys, keep fucking downloading and installing. Like they made their own false narrative. Jesus Christ, man. And to use that as a guise to not pay their employees. What scumbags, dude?
Clear, but it is really funny. Now, this poor treatment of employees, or well, the Crytek CEO says that people were happy to not get paid, but I don't believe that for a
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's literally nobody ever said that ever. We chose for the team itself for this reason to not for this reason not to downsize. Majority of the team has applauded this rather than critique. No. Pay. People give work, you pay for work. It could not be simpler.
For a second, this poor treatment of employees is widespread, and as we've seen recently, often happens where piracy doesn't. 2023 was the worst year for game developers on record. Over 1/3 of devs were laid off or knew someone who was, according to one survey. Included with those are Epic Games laying off 800 people, Niantic laying off 200, and of course, Microsoft recently letting go almost 2,000 people from places like Blizzard. Over 6,000 people lost their jobs this past year, and
what is this? Gaming industry layoffs. Each dot represents one of the approximately 16K people affected since January 2023. Oh. Okay. Bunch of people. Boom. Bunch of people. January, March, May. And then it's like kind of foggy. Like the end of the June, middle of July. Bro, how fucking dog shit does it got to be to get laid off on April 1st? It's like, guys, come on. This is a joke, right? No, dude, you're really fired. What the fuck? This is like, it's April 1st. Stop messing with me. Bro. Damn straight bet, like April, like early April, better be fucking bear. Like, nobody's getting fired really in August. Like in early August, only the end of August. It's like every month. October. Nothing seems to really happen on October. Like there's a little bit, but yeah, not much. The end of November, wow, that sucks. December, middle of December, that sucks. And then 2024, Jesus Christ, so many people got left. Or was this like the big 2000 letdowns of whatever, like Microsoft and Blizzard? Damn.
And notably, a decent chunk of them were from companies making highly profitable online games.
Wow, what scumbags?
Ones that don't get cracked or have massive piracy issues, yet still drop their employees like a sack of potatoes in order to cut costs. The reason for layoffs and shutdowns and poor working conditions are all going to be different. I'm not saying the games industry is a monolith. However, Bobby Kotick left Activision Blizzard with a $400 million payout.
Oh, yeah.
And Epic Games' Tim Sweeney is worth $4 billion. So that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
When most companies try to make a
Yeah, I'm going to lay off all these workers and then I'm just going to absorb all of their money that I had to pay them. So, haha.
big stink about piracy and talk about all the money they're not making or all the employees that worked hard on their game, it can kind of ring hollow. Because even if their game isn't pirated, even if their game is massively successful, the most successful of all time, in fact.
Yeah, Fortnite generated over 20 billion in lifetime revenue, according to its co-creator Donald Mustard. 20 billion. Holy shit, dude. That's insane.
That company isn't guaranteed to treat their employees any better. More revenue from piracy not happening wouldn't give those overworked devs job security. A union would.
You know,
Yeah.
there's assumption that what is piracy? Piracy is about people want to steal stuff from you, right? That they don't want to pay any money and they want to get your content.
Well, it's just people want to have the experience first and pay you after. Not them pay you first and then they receive an experience that is a big question mark. And then apparently, if the game is a big stinker, within 2 hours or after 2 hours, you can't even refund your money back. But meanwhile, you didn't even play a lick of game time in that 2 hours. You were stuck in a fucking queue for 4 hours because you just wanted to play the game on day one. That's why.
But when you look at the fact that these people have, you know, $2,000 PCs and they're spending $50 a month on their internet connections, clearly they're willing to spend money. So from our point of view, what we saw more and more is that piracy is the result of bad service on the part of game companies.
Oh.
So when you attack the
Base take.
problem that way, by improving the service component of the experience rather than through copy protection, which reduces the service component, you know, copy protection is actually going to increase. I mean, there's anecdotal evidence that this is the case, that copy protection actually increases rather than decreases the piracy of games. So, like I say, by focusing on the customer and doing useful things for the customer, piracy really becomes sort of a non-issue for us.
So why don't we switch from the most common reasons people will say piracy is evil to the main reasons people will say piracy can be a good thing? That being for emulation and games preservation.
Oh,
emulation, yet again, is not piracy, even though tons of people who don't like it will be quick to call it that. Emulation is just the ability for a computer to act like a video game console and run games for that console. It is perfectly legal to do, and several lawsuits like Sony v. Connectix and Sony v. Bleem all ruled in favor of emulation. The
Oh,
lawsuits
shit.
Sega v. Accolade and Galoob Toys v. Nintendo.
Bro, this is like the funniest fucking shit. Like the names of this shit. Galoob. Bro, somebody has to make a company name that's like Massive Throbbing Cocks versus Sony or some shit like that.
Even ruled that reverse engineering game cartridges and game consoles is legal, which became one of the few exemptions that the DMCA Act specifically allowed. Side note, I do wish some of the companies involved in landmark emulation cases had better names than Bleem or Galoob, but what can you do? Buying a game, dumping its
Bro, I need to have like some sort of case where it's like some obnoxious company name versus like a known company. I need this.
Contents onto a computer, loading the console's files into an emulator, and then playing that game on the emulator is 100% A-OK, no matter how much Sony and Nintendo wish it wasn't. Or rather, how much they wish it wasn't for other people, because official consoles like the NES Classic and PlayStation Classic are just emulators. And even HD re-releases of games like Parappa the Rappa on PS4 were found to be running PSP emulators that just upscaled the game. So,
Oh shit. So they're just using the law in their favor.
emulation is perfectly fine. Even the companies that put Connectix and Bleem into bankruptcy due to all their lawsuits use it to sell their crappy little anniversary consoles. When we talk about piracy in regards to emulation, it's just the same as every other kind. People who don't legally dump ROMs, but just go ahead and download them instead. And buying games to play on emulators legally is not a very easy task. If you want to buy the original version of anything older than a couple console generations ago, you're probably going to have to go through a third party like eBay.
Yeah, like all of that old ass shit, like unless you initially owned it and you kept it in good condition for all these like years, you just cannot get the game anywhere.
which means none of your money is going to the people who made the game.
Yeah.
And that's if the game is even for sale, since as we saw with the closure of the Nintendo eShop, there are thousands of digital titles that are just gone forever, save for pirated copies. In recent years, there have been major talks about games preservation, and piracy is often the only way older titles can be preserved. Physical copies will degrade over time, digital copies will be deleted from stores, but a copied ROM played on an emulator can be shared and archived forever, which is
That's actually really cool to think about. Like, why don't any of these companies just engage in their own like emulator store? Like, why, instead of like fighting against it, why wouldn't they just do that?
especially helpful when the company behind that game doesn't want to or sometimes can't officially sell it anymore. God, just as I was writing this video, Spec Ops: The Line got deleted from online storefronts. 2K says their license expired, so you just can't buy the game legally if you try. Oh well. And this is a problem that
Wasn't
goes
that a good game? I never played that game.
beyond preservation and emulation for a lot of people. I've been focusing on the US a lot here, but gaming in other countries is a whole different story. Just last year, Steam made changes to their pricing, which removed regional currencies from places like Argentina and Turkey. And so many developers just price their AAA titles the same as the US, at around 40 to 60 USD.
Well, now it's going up from 60 to 70, 80, 90, 100 in certain cases.
The only problem being that those games now cost up to half the average monthly salary in those countries.
Oh shit, that don't look good. What was this? Let me hear this again.
Half the average monthly salary in
Half the average monthly salary in those other countries. That's crazy, dude. I mean, like you have to be like big brain about like where you want to sell your game at. You have to only want to sell to like other countries that have money. So if you're like in some like first world country, you probably got no business to be like buying games because it's not even like feasible. I couldn't imagine like having to save up like months and months of like for like work just to get like some game. Like granted, like when I was a little kid, it kind of was like that, but new games back in the day, at least in the US for me, like new games were like $50. And if I wanted like a new game, I'd have to like do a bunch of like chores and shit. And it's like even then, it's like it's just whatever your parents can like get you, really. So, bro, that sucks.
in those countries. On top of that, most
Bro, can you imagine someone from another country like coming, like just being in another country, them wanting to get a game, but the price is based on like the United States version. So it's like they have to work, let's say, a whole month to get a game. Do you think in their head, oh my God, everybody in the United States is so rich, they have to work an entire month just to get a game? Wow, this game must be really worth a month's worth of work. I can't imagine that, dude. Because like conventionally, like if a game is $60, you know, like a minimum wage is like going up, and like a lot of the time you'll hear like this $50 mark in the US like going around, and it's gonna be like dependent on like your job, but I'm just gonna use like $15 an hour. That's like 4 hours of work to get like a $60 game. That doesn't compare to like either 2 weeks of work or a whole month of work. That's crazy.
games rarely get support outside of major populated countries. Valve famously ported their games to Russia and saw major sales there, but they were an outlier, and still kinda are. For a lot of people, pirating even new releases is the only way to realistically get them, unofficial translations being a large reason they even make it across a language barrier. Something anime fans are all probably familiar with, as fan translations are the only reason anime got popular in the West. There's a common argument against piracy that says it only hurts people working hard to make games. But in this case, piracy can be the only way to get people to enjoy that hard work. It's the only way people can preserve that hard work
Yeah.
and make sure it's remembered. And with people trying to shut down sites like the Internet Archive, the people fighting against piracy could be the reason we lose that hard work forever.
Dang. That's a good fucking point, dude. Lara Croft. Jin Kazama, Crash Bandicoot. Piracy kills your heroes.
This whole
What?
video has been pretty difficult to make. You have no idea how many times I've gone back and rewritten sections of it to make better points or try to remove unnecessary fluff. I had whole long segments about copyright law and exemptions to it.
I don't know. I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Talked more about the early history of the cracking scene, but I just kind of realized that none of that really helped what I was saying, and I want the message of this video to be pretty clear. Being against piracy is easy. It's illegal, it hurts profits, it's stealing.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
And you have the law, most companies, and many, many people on your side.
True.
It's a pretty safe and easy opinion to have, and I don't fault anyone for having it. Because defending piracy, for any reason, almost always lands you with a mountain of arguments. You have to fight back on a bunch of misconceptions that are, at best, inaccurate, and at worst, straight up propaganda. And you have to
Because unless you're like a creator or something, most people don't give a flying fuck about the copyright laws and who's making money and whatnot. It's like people just want to consume the content. That's it. Period.
deal with people trying to paint this issue as some sort of good versus evil debate, even though I think the real answer here is that it isn't that black and white. You know, of course I want game devs to get paid more, and I want the games I like to make more money.
Yeah.
I think if you like games and you have the cash, then you should support them and buy
Yeah.
them. Obviously. I shouldn't even have to say it, because I don't think being pro-piracy has to oppose those ideals. But if I'm gonna make some judgment on the morality of piracy, I want to make sure I'm talking about it truthfully. And the truth, as far as I see it, is this. Piracy is not theft. Copyright laws kinda suck. DRM sucks more. And I can get a better experience in some games through piracy because of it. Pirating games is the only way to preserve many of them.
Yeah.
It's the only way some people can play most of them. And while it doesn't conclusively hurt profits, fighting against it has certainly hurt consumers. In
Dang.
fact, even if piracy didn't exist, game devs probably wouldn't get treated any better, and companies would just find another scapegoat to blame their problems on.
True.
But because it does, and it's not going anywhere, people around the world have gotten to enjoy amazing games.
Dang.
I'm sorry, but I just don't think piracy is that bad.
Oh, and that's that? Dang.
If I were a better YouTuber, I'd have bought an orange jumpsuit for this bit, but I'm not. Thanks so much for watching. Please feel free to leave a comment down below. I think this might be my most controversial video yet, and I've had people send me death threats over thumbnails I've made before.
Jesus.
But who knows? Maybe all of you agree with me and think I'm right. Either way, this is by no means a conclusive argument on the subject of piracy, so if you have an opinion on it, feel free to share. As always, if you liked the video and want to support the channel, you can
I like how it's just going through his cup down here too.
drop $1 to watch it, and all my other ones uncut and ad-free over on Patreon. If you don't want to pay the $1, go pirate it somewhere. I don't care. Also, you can check out gamersupps.gg/Lextorious to get 10% off some really great tasting energy drinks. They are sugar-free and 0 calories, and the company is willing to put their name on anything I make, so I
Yeah. When you got some shit like blowhole blast.
always appreciate them. I've recently been enjoying the Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Energy flavor a lot. I think it might be my favorite so far, and I got it in caffeine free so I can drink it while writing videos at 2 in the morning. Head to the link in the description or use code Lextorious at checkout to get some. It really does help the channel. Anyways, as you probably noticed, I have a new couch now. Look at this thing.
Nice.
It's great. It's so comfy. I ordered it back in like December and tried to get it for my last video, but they completely fucked up the shipping. So it's here
Fucking
now.
bitches.
And I couldn't have bought something like this without everyone's support on Patreon and YouTube and through sponsors like Gamersupps. And
Oh shit, Lex trying to flex on me. You know, he's trying to flex on everybody. Hey guys, look at my new couch, you couchless bitches.
In fact, after my Rule 34 video, the Patreon quintupled in size with over
Nice.
1,000 new members. So the credits are probably scrolling by really fast. With the couch, I hope to mark a shift in the channel where I'm going to make weirder, more creative videos, which
With
you've
the couch.
probably already seen with my bisexual sitting throughout this one. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.
Nice. Shit, dude.
Often happen.
Bro, this was so fucking good. If I could make an argument for piracy, I would probably reference this video the most. This was awesome. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's not really an issue for people that have money. Like, I got a job, so I got no problem paying for games and shit, but like all that other shit you said for like other countries, or it's a language barrier, or people got to work a month for a fucking game, it's like, yeah. And if you want to have potentially more customers, and like what that dude said with the book and shit, it's like, it's just a brand recognition, it's just marketing. Those are pretty good points, but god dang, that shit was good, man. I want to see another fucking controversial one like this, dude. This was awesome. You like knocked it out of the park. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.